Devil's Reign, a story that's currently associated with a 2021-2022 storyline about the outlawing of superheroes in Marvel's New York. But in the mid-ish 90s, it was the name for a cross-company event between Marvel and Top Cow, consisting of 8 interconnected one-shots, 2 precursors, and a couple interludes, because why not? I wasn't able to find very much about how this story came to be, like if the concept was conceived of in an interesting way, maybe the result of behind-the-scenes drama, or if someone either lost or won a drunken game of Guess Who at an office party, though it is apparently considered canon to Marvel's 616 universe. I wonder if Wilson Fisk has his lawyers ready in case of copyright infringement. Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, and today I begin taking issue with Devil's Reign, which sees a malevolent Marvel menace deciding to see if prospects are any better for him across realities. Really gives a whole new meaning to job commuting, doesn't it, folks? Let's begin with Witchblade number 11 and see if these comics have a spark of the divine or just spouting heresy. The cover is largely black, with the main heroine's face behind a figure in a gray cloak and glowing eyes. Looks like Moon Knight is moonlighting. Written by David Wohl and Christina Z, with art by Michael Turner, D-Tron, and Jonathan D. Smith, the story begins with the caped figure on the roof, watching Sarah, who's on a lower one, and she seems to have recently used the Witchblade given the strategic ripping of her shirt. Her narration kind of rambles about how people carry an invisible bubble with them, how everything in it is considered their area, and the invasive feeling of when it intersects with another bubble. All to say that she senses being observed, as the stranger seems to react to the movement of the Witchblade, seeming to crouch down. Where will you be when your laxative kicks in? It seems it's time to do a little invading of my own, see if I can't make a fine nuisance of myself. She's gonna ask that stranger to help her move next Friday. You know, when the weekend's just beginning and it's most inconvenient for them. Having her territory invaded quite a bit recently, Pizzini figures maybe this cloaked figure could offer some answers, and climbs up the only access ladder up or down to their level, despite the Witchblade symbiont repeatedly telling her no. She gets the same reaction whenever she tries getting it to eat its vegetables. She draws her gun and identifies herself as the police. I think her loser freak is supposed to be listen freak, as she states how she doesn't care for peeping toms. Otherwise, it just seems needlessly juvenile. When she orders them to get up and there's no response, she pulls the cloak to find a spherical ventilator and a sliver of something very familiar. She later goes to the forensics lab, recording her findings of the material under a microscope. Nerd! Shying away from outright pointing out its similarity to her gauntlet, or bracelet in this case, she pauses recording and tries to get a sample of the blade for comparison, and it don't like that, pushing the scalpel away and beginning to encompass her as her partner, Jake McCarthy, approaches. Will you stop playing with the lab chemistry set and get on to more important stuff? Like us? Well, if you're going to be like that, you can make your own creepy crawlies. She just needs a sec as the blade retreats into its more dormant state and proceeds to absorb the sample she was studying. So much for those battery tests she was going to run. She walks Jake to his car in the garage, and he says that from things he's seen and heard recently, she's likely in greater danger than she realizes, even getting a bit aggressive by grabbing her arm. Not the protective flex you might think, dude. She points out that, as a cop, she's kind of always in danger, though in real life, not as in danger as other jobs, FYI, and regardless, she's managing the situation. It's when 2 other officers pull in that McCarthy lets go and Sarah leaves. But one of them seems to think that their interaction was more romantic or sexual than it was, telling Jake to get some for him. Hey, guy, I'm assuming is sleeping with an attractive woman. Make sure any further intercourse you have is for me, okay? This is a totally rational thing for a coworker to say.
No, it isn't.
We get a few pages, including a couple 2-page spreads, at a motocross track, about some Yakuza wanting to know who killed one of their own. It was Jackie Estacado, aka The Darkness. It doesn't really matter to the overall story, but hey, someone crashes and dies, so excitement? Anyway, the interaction with Jake reminded Sarah of her friend Lisa, whom she vowed to watch over after the death of Lisa's mother. The girl may have gone back to modeling, so Sarah goes to the Boucher offices and shows off her badge to see the head honcho. After being led up the stairs by a personal assistant that gets shot down for a date with "don't speak unless spoken to," she meets Danette Boucher. I thought this woman has been in business since the 50s. Her face, everything about her, so youthful. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's a blood pact with a space mummy. After several flattering comments about Pizzini's physique, the detective asks the strangely, somehow familiar woman about her friend. Boucher says that she took Lisa under her wing, as her family didn't seem able or interested in her, but Sarah just missed her. She'll let her know the detective stopped by, which the cop is skeptical of, but still gives over her card and leaves. As she walks through the city, she makes a mental to-do list of the tasks before her. Track down Lisa, talk to a few select people, find out why that mysterious figure had a piece of the Witchblade, among other things, determined not to let anything get in her way. The issue ends on what appears to be a face in the evening sky. It becomes a giant Mephistopheles looming over Manhattan. "Yeah, never fails. Whenever my trick knee starts acting up, weather always changes to the devil in the sky with a looming, ominous threat in his eye. Means 6 more weeks of winter, ironically enough." So, yeah, not a lot in this issue to warrant being included in this review. Barely enough for the year of the crossover. A lot of it seems to be carrying on with plot points from the title itself. A serial killer, Pizzini potentially being targeted, some friends in her life maybe heading down the wrong path. Then boom, Marvel Universe demon. Like watching Star Trek and then suddenly Frodo and Samwise are chilling on the bridge. So why did I spend so much or any time on this? Because I'm insane, that's why. Sure, maybe a couple of these things may be relevant later, but it's mostly the loony completionist in me. Next up, Devil's Reign Half, Silver Surfer, and Witchblade. In case you're curious or unfamiliar about the whole half-issue thing, Wizard Magazine, a periodical devoted to comics, sci-fi, and other such geek culture, had mail-away offers for comics that were part of a given title's continuity, but numbered half so as to avoid messing with the numbering. Though given how often the big two renumber or cancel then renew titles, the notion that these issues would be disruptive almost feels quaint. With Wizard now defunct, I don't think publishers do half issues anymore. I haven't read or owned many, but in my experience they're not super necessary reading, not telling you anything you don't already know or couldn't find out in the story proper, or anything particularly vital in overall continuity. But hey, there may be examples that prove me wrong in that regard, and they may still be fun to read. I'm pretty sure there's a Deadpool half that ended with him having a veritable harem of Gwen Stacy clones, all dressed in French maid outfits. Not sure how Peter would have felt about that. But Angry Spork, you say, which I can hear through my incredible comic reviewer powers. If it's not anything special or unique to the story, why is it part of the review? And I respond, I already mentioned I'm a completionist doofus, that should clue you in. Carrying on, the issue was written by Mike Manzarek, plotted by David Wohl, with art by Kirk Van Wormer, Adam McDaniel, Norm Rapmund, Livesay Joe Weems, Tyson Wengler, Quantum Color Effects, and Ashby Manson, all of which are enough for their own softball team. The cover sees the two title characters, as well as several others. A woman I don't recognize, so I guess she's from Top Cow, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine, who appears to be stark naked for some reason.
I have misplaced my pants.
We begin in the northeastern slopes of hell, overrun by the souls of annoying tourists looking to ski. It's hell, what do you expect? Actually, this is where Mephisto has spent his, quote, self-imposed exile from ruling the underworld, and he finds himself terribly bored. He was going to open up a club in L.A. and solve mysteries in his spare time, but some other devil beat him to it.
How much longer must I be subjugated to this torture?
Appropriate that he's asking himself, as, since stated, this is self-imposed exile. By definition, this is your own doing, you yuts. Either go back to tormenting the condemned or get yourself a game console, for crying out loud. His biggest problem, he figures, is that he's done it all, with nothing left to accomplish, and his best work, the Black Plague, World War II, Richard Nixon, all now behind him. I refrain from making the obvious and justified remarks about the recent 9 or so years, because I deal with some of that nonsense already. That, and if I blamed the actual devil or some surrogate for these stochastic terrorists pretending to be more factual than legit journalists, dubious rich people in politics screwing the rest of us over, or the uninformed spreading disinformation propaganda with mostly their imagination being the proof, well, then I take away the agency of those people who made their own mistakes. And that's going easy on them. But I digress. Eventually, after some thought, he returns to his court and summons one of his minions, Scratch. The discovery of a new dimension has revived his motivation, a realm with no devil or gods of death, so likely easy to conquer. He especially doesn't think highly of its heroes or their names, like Impact or Ordnance or Fist.
Raking their souls over the coals of hell. Ah, that will be a pleasure.
Wait, if there's no devil in this dimension, how do you know there's a hell? You're planning to expand your business to an entirely new area, and you haven't even considered where to set up shop? Is this your first day or something? One soul, rare in purity, catches his eye, lusting for both her body and power. Sarah Pizzini, whom he intends to defile and make her his queen.
I think a sampling of her nectar is in order.
Hey, phrase it!
He reaches across dimensions, somehow, to get a taste of this power. I assume represented by whatever this red thing is supposed to be. His curled finger. Is that a welt? A pimple? Whatever. Pizzini senses this, while flanked by two guys we've never seen, and look like they're extras in a gladiator movie. I don't know who they are, where they're supposed to be. This whole scene is just totally confusing. The Witchblade tells her some new player is after her soul and its power, which, while telling us how insightful it can be, it refuses to clarify for its host. Scratch, apparently changing his color palette, didn't know his master could travel dimensions, and this makes the self-professed Prince of Evil indignant that his underling thinks there's something his master doesn't know. So he grows to enormous size and roasts his junk. Yeah, that'll show him. Then displays on his evil viewing globe other pawns in his game, the team Weapon Zero. Colonel Tyson Stone, aka Ordnance, a modern-day human that uses alien battle gear to create weapons and teleport, along with 3 people that were abducted by aliens over 2 millennia and experimented on. Kikoyu, aka Slice, who can create sharp claws, Valaria, who can become the hulking behemoth Leviathan, Janus, her pet dog from when she was abducted, also experimented on so he can talk and alter the structure of his body, and Jamie, aka Fist, who can focus energy and cause directed explosions, and seems to prefer alienating himself from the others. Actually, he just really bought into the crypto bro lifestyle and just won't shut up about it. Also, Fist seems like an odd name choice for a guy that makes energy kabooms, but whatever. They're joined by Lilith, a warrior from the alien Batai race, and the twin sister of Stone's late wife. However, Mephisto takes note of just how angry and alone Jamie is, feeling he's the key to the team's defeat. Are you going to have him sell his loyalty to Weapon Zero in exchange for a better code name? Then he shows the image of Nagolth, leader of the insectoid-like Tassari, the ones who experimented on Weapon Zero and possess the cross-dimensional technology the demon intends on utilizing to achieve his goal. Specifically one warship in particular that gets its own splash page because it's so special. The hitch, however, is that the ship crashed on Marvel's Earth eons ago and is now in pieces underground. For all his power and evilness, he can't ignite the engines, so needs to think on how he can get it working. One of the flying critters he has bring him his cloak suggests using one of the Earth heroes, and Mephisto fries him into a skeleton for daring to offer unsolicited advice to his overlord. Then he demands all his underlings leave him.
Who will help the devil himself?
Probably not a whole lot if you keep burning them like spare ribs gone wrong. After his overly dramatic tirade, or tantrum depending on how you look at it, he has a realization and begins laughing as we close up on his eye and see a figure riding a board over his iris. He really needs to have his optometrist take a look at that. In a fit of delicious irony, Mephisto plans to use the fouler of so many of his schemes to charge the warship, the Silver Surfer, who won't even know he's become the means of enslaving an entire dimension. Seen here on a 2-page spread, the surfer talks to himself aloud, including his name and work history, about how strange it is he always seems drawn back to Earth, the only planet he dares call home. At least ever since he got evicted from Neptune over all those noise complaints.
That ivory white soul of his will be stained for all eternity.
I don't think so. Sure, Hill may have been playing a part in your plan, but if he's not aware of what he's doing, thinks he's doing good, but is being manipulated, not knowingly doing anything immoral of his own volition, that probably doesn't count against him or his immortal soul. You're the devil, you should know this. As the hero destroys an asteroid threatening the planet he loves, saying everything he's doing out loud because he really doesn't socialize, I guess, Mephisto finds our pale blue dot is the key to trick a mind that he considers not so bright.
Son, you are dumber than a bowl of mice.
Complementing his own genius, he envisions his future, a kingdom of fire and torment, his queen, Sarah Pizzini, submissively at his side, one of his imps carrying a baby that I have to assume is supposed to be the result of their union. And even in his own wishful aspiration, he still kind of looks bored. Is he subconsciously anticipating this being a lateral move? The comic ends on him laughing about all the players he plans to use and his plan set in motion. That was Devil's Reign half, and like so many prequels, it's quite the mixed bag. I won't do much of a wrap-up right now because context for later installments, and that whole I'm insane thing I mentioned earlier. I will say that structurally, it felt like a shorter story with a lot of visual filler. And for all the artists involved, some of those visuals looked a little unfinished, or maybe that was supposed to be intentional. I don't think we needed 2 pages for the surfer in space, or a splash page for the one ship our villain wants to use. While some of the layouts could be attributed to someone's personal style, the panel where Witchblade is tipped off to Mephisto's presence just doesn't make any sense. Why is she standing between 2 gladiators? Why not have her in her apartment or something? Are they on top of a pedestal? A rooftop? I demand this scene start making visual sense! Tune in next week when the main story kicks off, and what actual crossing over we get besides a literal slideshow from hell. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.